Welcome, welcome, welcome back, family. This is episode 2 of the relationship series. And you have your girl, ArDenay Garner, and Miss
Hi, I'm Shay.
Jay Shay. And so, Jay Shay, tell the people what we're going to be talking about on this evening.
So this evening, welcome to episode 2. The topic of today is denial. So the denial portion of being in an unhealthy relationship, from my point of view, denial can cause loss of relationships with other people that are important to you because you get afraid that they can see what you're going through. You get upset with them for telling you about the person you have feelings for or are in this situation with. And you kind of trick yourself that it's not so bad after all.
Nice. Thank you for that. And I know when we were chopping it up before we came on
Before we
live,
came on, like,
I was actually
I was
thinking, did I have an experience of denying my feelings? And I was like, yeah, no, I probably didn't, but absolutely. And one of the things where denial impacted me in my relationship was I didn't even acknowledge the feelings that were trying to surface, such as the sadness, the isolation, the frustration, the annoyance. Like I dismissed all of those feelings. I denied those feelings because I was like, no, this is supposed to be my happily ever after, the guy that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. And so I didn't even acknowledge any feelings that did not feel good. And that is a pure example of denial.
example. Right. Absolutely. And it's so easy to do. And I think it goes back to something that my clinical supervisor talks to me about is the idea of comfort um and versus being familiar. And it was so important that she taught me that because I was like, well, people stay because they're comfortable. And she was like, I want to challenge you on that. She loves to say that. And I love that she says it. She was like, what's comfortable about being in a unhealthy relationship? It's nothing comfortable about it, but it's familiar. And I was like, it's familiar.
Mm.
So it's that idea of the devil you know. The devil I know may be abusing me, but I know how to function with him. I know I got somebody if I'm with him. I know I'm already this age and I desire to be married by this age. So if I stick it out with this a little longer, maybe he'll become happy within himself, which will help him to become happy with me. And then I don't have to worry about him harming me or disrespecting me again. Denial is
Mm.
strong.
Yeah, and that familiarity makes sense, and I could see how that can happen. And when I think about my experience, is really just denying my sense of self, my desires to be in a healthy relationship, and just putting that aside and saying, you know what, now that I'm in too deep, meaning that we've already had intercourse or now that we have children, I'm in too deep. So I'm just going to put myself and what I feel aside and just focus on my family and my children. And that's, for me, I believe that's probably one of the greatest forms of denial because we know something is off. We know something's not right. We know we're being mistreated, abused, lied to, betrayed, manipulated, and yet we deny the thing that is telling
The
us,
thing
our
that is telling
intuition that is telling us, you need to investigate, you need to check this out, you need to, or the suspicions that are saying something's not right, whether they may be cheating or lying or misrepresenting themselves. We deny our truth and our intuition, which will, again, it will easily land us in a place where we have to practice and experience forgiveness should we choose that path. So denial comes in many forms and fashions, and oftentimes we do it to ourselves. Like people show who they are, and we for
Mhm.
some reason dismiss it and ignore it and be like, no, no, that can't be them real selves, when that is in fact their real selves.
I saw it was a clip, and I'm gonna say, I'll paraphrase this because I'm not gonna quote him correctly, but a pastor was like, you have to be extremely narcissistic or extremely naive to believe a person to do something to everybody but not you. And when I saw it, when I don't know about you, for me, when I hear something that I don't want to hear, I screw my face up. Who do you think he's talking to? But I'm also at a point where I'm able to accept hard truths. So you know how you just like let something replay over and over again. I was
Hmm.
like, okay. Now, putting to the side that people misuse the phrase narcissistic or the term or narcissistic often, but even the idea of that is like, what is it that you think you are that can change somebody else if they're not willing to do that for themselves? And that's a hard conversation to have, and to take that conversation for what are you missing in your life that you're trying to display to this person can't give it to you, that this is how I want you to treat me. So those are all questions that I had to sit with myself with. And I'm one of them people, like one of my good friends was laughing at me, like, because I say a lot, and I mean it in a humorous way, but like I'm serious. And I was like, yeah, for me, like I built a RICO case in a relationship, and by the time I walk away, they like, well, I ain't do nothing that time. And it's like, it was enough. I had enough evidence, and I was like, that's unhealthy. It's something I need to work on. But that's what happened with this particular relationship that I experienced domestic violence. It got so bad, and it was so bad for so many years that my breaking point to him was like, I done did this, and this, and you gonna leave me because of that. And it was like, understand, that might be what you feel. That's not what I feel. I have been hurt through everything, but I finally got the courage, and I decided to say, this is what it is. It's not going to change. It has only gotten worse. It will continue to get worse. Let me leave. But it took me so long to get there because of denial.
Mm. I can see how that could be the case. And, I can see how also denial could be misconstrued with giving people the benefit of the doubt or giving them multiple chances and opportunities, or us wanting to be kind and generous. And I think, if you're in a situation and you're listening to this or watching this and you're like, well, how do I know that it's denial versus me wanting to just give this human another chance? You have to ask yourself, and I think you have to ask yourself, is it is it safe? Is it
Is it
worth it? Do you need to be
you
the
need to be the
individual
individual
to give them
to
the opportunity? Is it something that they can work on outside of you? Like, you have to actually be willing to put yourself first and really assess the relationship. Because I know, as Black people, we give people multiple chances just in general. Multiple chances because we are forgiving, we are kind, and we want the best for people, and we know that people are human and they're going to make mistakes. But denial is taking it to the next level, like denying that this person whose actions does not align with their words, who has been sorry and promised not to do it, and aren't doing anything to change their behavior. Their mindset hasn't changed, their behavior hasn't changed. Only thing has changed is the date and time of the incidents, the abuse, but everything else has been consistent. They're not working with a counselor, they're not doing the inner work, they're not changing people, places, and things. Like, that's when you are really denying the reality of it's unlikely that this person is going to change because they're not changing.
I love that you said that because that was the thing for me. Like people like to coin a, oh, I'm going to see the lady. So it's like, oh, well, he going to see the lady. He in this program or that program, not necessarily for domestic violence, but for things that contributed to the domestic violence. And so it was like, oh, well, he is working on it. But like you said, he can go to this class or whatever. But if you have not changed who you're around, you have not changed your mindset, the incidents are still happening. Now you're just able to acknowledge it. And acknowledgement is the first step. But being able to acknowledge it and still do it, that's a whole nother red flag that we often deny because we want this person because it's comfortable. Nope. There I go. Because it's familiar.
Mm. So it's interesting that you talk to us a little bit about comfortable and familiarity because I see that you're trying to use them interchangeably, but you're being mindful, like, no, it's not comfort, it's familiarity. So what was the experience that you had with it being comfortable?
I didn't have one with it being comfortable. Um, I think that's important to point out. But I will also say it was times that it wasn't so bad. And that sounds horrible. But I'm being honest in this conversation. Um, like we talked about last time, I did not love myself in the way that I thought I loved myself. I was willing to be a punching bag for the sake of at least you're trying. And that's never okay. You have to be the first person you care for
Mm.
because you will be depleted if you're not. So I would say in the times that I was comfortable, it's because I wasn't getting hands put on me. I wasn't getting called out of my name. It was times where I felt like, okay, he did this for me. He looked out for me in this way. He made sure it was gas in my car. Honestly, things I could do for myself. But because I desired marriage and a relationship and children so bad, and I knew I had been with this person already for such a long time, it was like I might as well stick it out. And then I had the sick idea that if this person, I see this person for everything they could be. I see this person for their potential. I know this person at their best. I have experienced this person at their worst. And at their best, this is somebody who I feel again that back to the thing of that pastor, what that pastor said, this is somebody I feel like he wouldn't do this to me once he loved himself enough. But how
Mm.
sick is that to want to stay around for somebody to love themselves if you don't love yourself? Because if I truly loved myself, I would have walked away from that situation. And we'll talk about this portion of it more in the next episode. Back to me being that social worker and caseworking the relationship. I remember it was times because I didn't start off calling the police. When it got to the point that I had to call the police, I remember specifically saying, hey, this person has other issues. This is more of a mental health matter. So he wouldn't go to jail for domestic violence.
So
Now, I
still
wasn't lying.
protecting.
Right, I wasn't lying. Absolutely, it was more than just domestic violence, but I was protecting him. It was just like, okay, he need to dry out a little bit or be away from me. But I'm fearing for my life. So it was that denial in me of that this would get better versus only thing I'm doing is showing him that it has gotten so bad that I am abusing her. She's calling the police on me, but she gonna come pick me up in the morning. And it continued to get worse. So to your original question of that comfort versus familiar, I got comfortable when I viewed it was good, but what was good to me was the way that I would treat anybody that I didn't even know. When I wasn't getting called out my name, I was comfortable. When I was able to just not fear somebody putting their hands on me, I was comfortable.
Hmm.
But hell was so familiar that comfort felt like heaven. And that's a bad place to be.
And so
And so
I hear you saying it was sick. But if I think about it, it's not uncommon for people to stay in places that are harmful because if you think about upbringings, conditioning, all of the things, it's like, okay, I can, and I mean, for lack of a better word, well, it's familiar. Like I know that this person is unpredictable, is abusive, is cheating, but I don't know about the unknowns. And so some people will make those choices. Well, I rather deal with what I know, what is familiar, versus walking into the unknown territory because the unknown territory could look very fearful or intimidating or threatening, or it's just the risk of the unknown appears to be greater than the abuse that is familiar because you're like you one may say, well, I know he's gonna slap me around and then he's gonna fall asleep, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even sick, I don't think, Jamie, it's just the way that we learn to cope. In all honesty, we learn to survive and cope, and it's what gets us through until we just say, damn it, enough is enough. I don't care what is about to happen or what's on the other side of this door. I'm going through it because I've had enough. I've reached my breaking point. And I think when we get to that point, our desire to change becomes way more greater than the risk of the unknown once we attempt to leave the relationship because we got to get to that point if we choose to. Some people may choose to stay, and that's okay, but then you have to learn, okay, how can you stay and be safe?
right. And I love how you said that. And thank you for saying that. Because when it comes to me, and I want to be honest and say with somebody else's situation, I wouldn't say that they were sick in their thinking if it was somebody else. I have to say that for me because of the way I process information. So for me, with me dealing with any situation, I'm a person where it has to be extreme for me to pay attention because I will give that benefit of the doubt. I do have a bleeding heart in a lot of situations. I'm getting a lot better, but I truly have that overactive heart chakra to where it's like I want to look at you at your best and at your highest, no matter who you are. Like I can hear 50 million bad things about you from 40 million people, and I still want to see if you're going to interact like that with me. So I'm one of them people where it's like, hey, that stove hot, it's gonna burn you. And like I have to process that in my mind. So that's why I spoke like that in regards to myself. But I do appreciate you for pointing that out because I have to learn, and that's a part of that healing. Like healing and change is not overnight. Even with me being out of this relationship for this long, I still have to work on even me being able to talk about it on this platform or share my story with other people. I still have to work on the way that I think and I process. So when we go through these situations and somebody hits you or does something, and then they go to one class or write a letter, and for you to think they've changed that quick, that's what you got to call bullshit because it's like, I'm sitting here telling you, I have been in other situations since this one with this person, and I'm still having to rewire my brain in the way that I speak to myself and process. And it's been over 2 years.
And you know what I
You know what
find,
I
because I am a counselor and I talk with people every day about different abusive situations, whether they're at work and being bullied or abused or in their personal relationships. And I noticed that the victims are always doing way more work than the abuser and the perpetrator. Like we trying to figure it out. We doing the journaling, the meditation, the yoga. Like we really trying to cope because we are somehow, I wonder if people believe that it's something within us that is provoking the abuse when that is never the case. But when you talked about having a bleeding heart, I get it. I'm probably gonna say I don't have a bleeding heart. I probably lean more toward my dad. My dad,
Oh my God.
put it like this: he was born in '36, and he went from zero to 10,000 very
10,000.
quickly. And so, while I
Wow.
do
I
trust people
trust
up until they
people
give me an opportunity not to trust them, the first time I was hit by my abuser, I knew then that I would needed to leave. It just took me 10 years. It was never that, I thought he would change. I mean, I wanted him to change, but I knew the first time that he hit me, like I'm not supposed to be in this, but I had to find the strength to leave. And then there's the factors of the children. And then I'm out of town and isolated. So there were so many variables. But I knew from that moment, that's why I always describe that moment as my heart shattered into millions of pieces because the love of my life, I realized, was not the love of my life anymore. And it just took me 10 years to get out of that abusive relationship. But I knew from day one, this ain't it. This
Thank
ain't
you
it.
for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love that we do have two different perspectives. I think that's what makes this that much more powerful because we're on the extremes of it. And I feel like people who are going through this can relate somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. And I
And
think it's important for people to realize like you
so
may be
like
in an
you
abusive
make
relationship and you may
relationship
decide that you
and you
want it to work.
that you
And
want
that
to
is
work.
okay. Because I've had people come to me who
Had people come to me
was
who
married and saying they're being
was married
abused and
and
this
abused
person was a
and
public figure and
this
they're like,
person
what
was
should
a
I
public
do? And the
figure.
question was, what do you
Question
want
was,
to do? Do you
what do
want
you
your
do? Do
marriage?
you
Do you want
want
to make it
your
work? And if so, here are the
and if
steps
so,
to
you're
work on
here
making it work.
to work on making it work.
If you want to leave, here are
Leave
the steps. So you get to
steps
decide
so you
because
get to
people
decide
can
because
change.
people can change.
People can
You
change,
know,
people
people
can
can
get the
change.
healing, people can go to counseling. All of the things can
All
happen,
of
but
the
it's
things
based off
happen,
what
but it's
you
based
want as an
on
individual. And like Jamie, you've been talking about that self-love. I didn't love myself for,
myself for
I definitely didn't love myself while I was in an abusive
myself while I was in
relationship
an abusive
and
relationship and
years after that as
years
well. But
after
it
that
was
as
a
well.
process. It's a
Process.
process.
Process. It is definitely a process, and I think safety is the main thing, like being sure that you can care for yourself. I'm not at the point to where I would be able to tell somebody it's okay. I am at the point where I can tell somebody that you have autonomy over your life.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the way I approach it. Because I think when we talk about being counselors, we have to understand where our blind spots are and where our biases are. And I understand that that's a bias for me. And so I don't run away from these type of cases, but what I do is I make sure I consult with my supervisors when I have to deal with it because I don't want to cause further harm to anybody based on my experience. And you're
And
right, some people do decide to stay. And again, safety. Safety is the most important thing, but also being realistic and tying it back to our topic, not being in denial. Understand what you are dealing with. Please
great.
understand what you are dealing with. And
Those
again,
are
understand that change does not happen because the person says sorry. That is not
mm,
how change starts. Um, I think connections have a lot to do with it too, in the way that And I'm going to speak for myself the way that I wanted this person to be received. I did not want people to look at this person and feel as if they were a bad person or anything of that nature. So I made excuses for them when I could, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. And I'm not saying that person isn't worth anything. Like I said on, the last episode, I don't know what this person is doing. I don't know where that person lives. I don't know what this person got going on in their life. And it doesn't matter to me because I left that where it was. But my experience with a person does not dictate how other people should experience that person because people can change if they put in the work. I never want to know if this person changed. That's not anything I'm ever interested in. If he did, good for him. Wonderful for him and wonderful for everybody connected to him. It's no hate in my heart, but to go along with that bleeding heart I have, I'm also a Scorpio, so that cutoff game is super strong. So when I'm done, it's over, and that's just where I am in my growth of self love and in my growth in healing through this. Um, and through felt more appropriate than from because I still have, some ways to go. Just in regards to, I think it's a such thing as overcorrecting, as well. So where I was once a person, I would just say, "Oh well, this person was kind of rude to me. Maybe they're having a bad day." Now, first sign, okay, I'm good. You ain't got nothing else to say to me. Don't even worry about it. Like I'm at that point in my life because the hell that I went through and experienced, I will never go through that again because I love myself enough to know that although I do have a desire to still be married at some point, and I definitely have a desire to be a mother, I will never put myself back in a position to where I'm mistreated. I'd rather be by myself than to ever endure that again.
And that sounds like lessons learned from previous experience. And also want to clarify when I say it's okay, like it's not okay that one is being abused, but like Jamie said, you have the autonomy, and people may come and say you need to leave, but if in your mind leaving is not what your choice, then how can you stay and be safe? That then becomes the new goal. How can you stay and be safe? Um, because let's be real, out of the 8.2 billion people on earth or whatever that number is, people make choices that on the outside appears to be dangerous and unsafe to outsiders, but we don't know their motivations. And so if you are in a situation and being abused, just know that you can get counseling. There are organizations that are available to help and assist you. There are organizations that will assist with your children. There are domestic violence laws in certain states that can protect you. So there are resources available to get help should you want help. There are advocates, there are court advocates, there are laws, family court. Like there's a lot of resources to help you leave that abusive relationship or get counseling to heal that abusive relationship. So just know that the resources are available and you are not alone, and you don't have to walk with the shame and embarrassment, which is what I did. I just didn't want to know that I was in a relationship where I had lost myself and I was being emotionally abused by being called the names. I was experiencing financial abuse. I remember my ex told me, well, forgiveness told me, what did he say? He said, if I had money, I could get you to lick the walls. And I'm thinking like that is so not true because I can make my own money. Just because a person has
Just because
money
a person
does not mean you get
does not
the
mean you get
right to mistreat and abuse
this
people because you are the breadwinner or you're paying the bills. No, no, sir. I'm very more than
very
capable
more
of
than
earning my own money. So again, there's
yeah,
financial
there's
abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's mental abuse, there's spiritual abuse, there's physical
financial
abuse. Those are all forms of abuse, and none of them are good. None of them are okay. And counseling is always available, should you choose to get counseling. And it
hmm
could be scary.
and
Now,
they
I'm not saying it was easy. It can be very scary, very scary.
it is scary because that goes back to the change. Change is taking a turn from your normal routine. We do things because, again, we are familiar. In order to change, you have to break away from what's familiar to you. And that's one of the scariest things because, like you said earlier, it's a matter of what's over there. Like, you don't, for instance, somebody like me, where like marriage was my thing that I wanted. It's like, oh, I want to be married. I want to be married. It's no guarantee that marriage is on this side for me. And I'm okay with that because of the peace that I have. But me 3, 4 years ago would not have been okay with that. So it's just a matter of like a new normal. And the new normal is more healthy, but it's scary to see what's on that side.
Mm, a
Mhm.
new normal.
New
That's
normal.
a good way to put
Good
it.
way to put it.
And for those
And
that
for
have
those
been
that
in abusive marriages
abusive
for
marriage,
decades, it is a new normal. And it is,
it is,
you know,
you know,
considering
considering
the risk and
the risk
considering
and
you first and
considering
foremost.
hmm
So I can definitely
you can
appreciate that.
definitely appreciate that. Oh yes.
What questions do you all
Questions
have?
do
If you have
you
any
all have?
questions, post them in the comments. We
Comments.
are here to, again, provide encouragement, empowerment,
Empower you.
information, resources. If you are in or recently out of a domestic violence situation, we want to be able to support you and just showing you what it's like to be transparent and share your story and to release the shame because guess
And because
it can happen to any one of us.
one of us
Um no one is exempt
is
from being
exempt
in a
from
domestic violence relationship. You can be with some of the greatest, most intelligent, brilliant, richest people on earth. And while we know
being
that there's
held.
very, very high
And
profile
right,
celebrity case happening right now as we speak,
you know,
domestic violence.
I think I
It's real. It's real. So know that you're not alone and be encouraged and ask questions. Maybe if not for
just
you,
maybe it's
maybe
not
there's a
for you
friend or a family member that is going through it and you're looking to find ways to be able to
to
support
find
them or what to say. And like we said in our last episode,
like
asking the
so
question of why did you allow yourself to get abused? That's the
is
wrong
that
question to ask. That's not
the
it.
wrong question to ask.
Don't do
That's
that.
a quick way for people to shut down and probably never talk to you again and feel like they're not understood. And I'm so glad you brought that up because we hear these things, especially in the Black community. I'm a part of the Black community, so that's the community I can speak on. I'm not sure about other cultures in that regard, but I have heard people say she must like getting their ass whooped. I have heard that, and I've heard it from people I respected, and I've heard it from people that I wouldn't take any advice from. So it's widespread amongst. That's a saying that people have, and it's sad, and it's something that needs to stop. It's not okay. And maybe if people felt safer with their supports, they wouldn't be in those situations.
Mm. And maybe if people understood, because we've been conditioned on so many levels just as a people. What happens in our house stays in our house. Don't tell them white people our business. I mean, when you think of abuse, like even just the sexual abuse that is rampant in our community, like just rampant in general in people's lives, so many people have been abused, and I don't know the exact statistics, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm generalizing it, but more people have been abused than they have not been abused. And so, again, just telling people like what happens in our house, you keep in our house, that right there is a form of conditioning. That if I'm feeling uncomfortable or a certain kind of way, then I have to keep quiet instead of seeking help when we're in schools. Like we have to there's so many things we have to unlearn and reteach the upcoming generations because the things that we were taught about our business or about what happens in our household stays in the household has been damaging. That's why we're
Yes,
running around here with all these secrets and silence and muted voices because we were conditioned to sit on people's laps if we didn't feel comfortable. Children may say, I don't feel comfortable sitting on such and such a lap. Oh, that's your uncle. Sit on his lap. He ain't gonna do nothing wrong with you. No, we need to respect that. Now, I want to say the parents of this generation may not be doing that, but in our generation, it was like we were taught to shut up and just do as we were told. And that was the biggest invalidation ever. And then
I
we wonder
agree.
why we stay in these abusive relationships and we don't have the
Yep,
self-esteem or the sense of self because we were denied and invalidated. Like being invalidated was a part of our upbringing.
it
Children should be
was. It's
seen and not heard.
absolutely, especially with the like you said, oh, well, that's your family member, and it's like even with people that I'm extremely close to, I don't always like to be hugged. I am okay without you touching me. We have an understanding that I am around you because I care. I don't need you to hug me to show me that. And it's not that I'm acting funny, that's a personal preference. But I agree, like, being that culturally, we are people that like hug and embrace. There's nothing wrong with that. But if somebody doesn't want that, it's okay for them not to want that, especially a child. You have to teach children that it is their bodies and people shouldn't be able to tell them what to do with their bodies. That
Right.
is absolutely important.
Right. And as adults, I think we have to get accustomed with asking permission. Is it okay if I give you a hug? Is it okay if I shake your hand? Is it okay if I put my hand on your shoulder? Like prior to that, it was like it was just assumed you could do all of the things with somebody else's body without asking permission. Now that we are more trauma informed, we will ask, "May I hug you? Is it okay?" So let's keep that up. Let's just practice trauma informed care throughout all interactions because it's really safe. Like
It
Jamie
is.
said, she don't need to be hugged or touched by everybody just because we're in the same space. You don't know what people have been through and how a touch may trigger them or sneaking up behind them may trigger them. Like we just gotta practice more, in my opinion, trauma informed care. And everybody may not know what that is, but I'll just give you one piece of advice. Ask permission before you start intruding on people's space and body and property. Start there.
I co-sign that.
All right, my friend. Well, I think this is a wrap.
I
What are you
agree. I
thinking?
enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. I am excited about our next topic, which is honesty. Being
Mhm.
honest with yourself about what you are going through, and then concluding with episode 4, the end and the beginning.
All right, now. So, y'all better stay tuned. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, post your questions or comments below because we want to know if this is valuable or helping you. We want to know what you want to know more of. I know I'm an open book. I wrote a book. My story is in a book. So hey, I've released all the shame when I wrote that book. So I have nothing to be embarrassed about or shamed about unless I have some new experiences. So I can't predict the future, but I'm an open book. So feel comfortable if you are asking questions on behalf of yourself or a friend, just put your questions in the comments.
All right. We look forward to it. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
All right. Have an awesome day.
Peace.